Welcome to the Captain Spandex 2020 Top 10 Games of the Year. And here's your host, me, Captain Spandex. Hello, I'm Captain Spandex, and this is my 2020 Top 10 Games of the Year. Couple of notes before we get into the list. I didn't play everything, but pretty much everything that I felt would make this list I did play. The one big exception is Demon's Souls. That would almost certainly make my top 10 because I'm a huge fan of the Souls games. It's only PS5, couldn't play that. Other than that, Persona 5 Royal, I didn't play that. If you would count that, it would probably make my top 10 because I love Persona 5 so much. So other than that, pretty much everything that I wanted to play, and I think I'll make a list, I played. And the other thing I should mention too is there's going to be no spoilers in this video for any of these games. I'm going to show early game footage and not talk about. I'm very sensitive to spoilers, so we're not going to talk about any of that stuff. So without further ado, also make sure to sub. Number 10, 2020 Game of the Year for Captain Spandex is Wasteland 3. Yellow snowball. What? You can throw a yellow snowball?
Watch out where the huskies go, don't you eat that yellow snow.
In recent years, there has been a renaissance of the classic CRPG genre. Divinity Original Sin, Pillars of Eternity, Tides of Numenera, and Baldur's Gate 3 to name a few. The first two Fallout games are absolute legends in my view, and after enjoying Wasteland 2, I was excited for the next entry. And thankfully, overall, this title does not disappoint. Wasteland 3 is all about spinning your own stories in this post-apocalyptic world. Create a fast-talking, tiny, sociopathic serial killer who gets stronger as they further their killing spree? Oh, and who is also a prodigy and repairs toasters? Sure, why not? Travel the world in your armored vehicle, completing quests in myriad ways using stealth, hacking, diplomacy, or follow the Justice is Might credo and blast foes with yellow snowballs and frozen ferret launchers. Wasteland 3 is a biting social commentary with dry, sardonic humor that isn't for everyone, but in general works for me. The crippling number one issue, however, are the bugs, and my god, this game was nigh broken upon release, at least on Xbox One S. My game reliably crashed every 1 to 2 hours. I haven't played recently, and I hear anecdotally the PC runs okay, but it's free on Game Pass, and despite its broken release, I can't help but enjoy it. That's why Wasteland 3 is my number 10 Game of the Year for 2020. Number 9, a game with a name that just flows right off the tongue, the Dark Pictures anthology, Little Hope.
She looks just like the one beside you. Would you kindly come play with me?
No, I don't want to play with you, Mary.
Come play.
Until Dawn is an incredible game that I played through multiple times, so I couldn't resist playing the next two entries from Supermassive Games. Man of Medan was okay but disappointing, and in some ways Little Hope is the same. The writing and characters aren't amazing, but definitely improved from Medan, and the ending, no spoilers, was extremely deflating. But I have a soft spot for these types of choose-your-own adventure games. Your choices in this horror game, especially during tense moments, can spell the difference between life or death for all the main cast. You know how you yell at characters in horror movies for making stupid decisions? Well, you will almost certainly fall prey, personally, to this, and immediately regret a snap decision. Dark Pictures anthology Little Hope, that's quite a name, doesn't reach the horror heights of Until Dawn, but if you're into this subgenre, I do recommend it. Number 8, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Wait a minute. No. Doom Eternal. I always get those two mixed up. If you've played the 2016 Doom reboot, you know what to expect with Doom Eternal. It's more of the same, which isn't a bad thing here necessarily. Rip and tear your way through demonic hordes as they satisfyingly splatter across your screen, while a kicking soundtrack keeps your blood pumping. My love notwithstanding, I personally prefer Doom 2016, I must say. The jumping in Eternal feels good, but in my opinion, they went way overboard with this mechanic. To me, Doom is all about running and gunning, and jumping just adds an unnecessary layer. Some love it, and I understand, but it gave me more displeasure than pleasure overall. Also, something about the soundtrack mix feels a bit off. But it still slaps, And if you miss old school shooters that trade cover for perpetual motion, Doom Eternal is for you. Number 7. Dreams. Dreams was released in beta in April 2019, and I've been playing and streaming it since, but the official release occurred this year. With it came more additions and a single-player campaign showing off the variety in game types. Dreams is 2 games in 1, a relatively simple-to-use kit for budding developers, and a search engine for said creations. You can create sounds, music, animation, art, levels, all the constituent parts of a game, then collaborate with others. The creations range from absurd memes to high art, to simple yet addicting games, to surreal, abstract, avant-garde nightmare fuel. Pretty much every genre can be represented here except for MMOs. It's truly an ineffable experience that needs to be seen or played to understand. Number 6, Paper Mario: The Origami King. Paper Mario: The Origami King is just what I needed in this awful year. The humor is pitch perfect, a testament to the translation team. The art is colorful and easy on the eyes, and the sound design is an absolute delight with an eclectic auditory palette. Combat is more puzzle than action, not quite what I want from the series, but it's surprisingly satisfying. The game is hampered by some inexplicable decisions, however. It's almost entirely bereft of progression elements that you would expect in an RPG. Bosses can be very trial and error. There's even a literal rock, paper, scissors boss. I'm not kidding. You can't control in any way your own party members, which is definitely also a bummer. And most importantly, they portray my boy Luigi like a dang fool. Still, I can't deny how refreshingly charming Origami King is, and I definitely recommend this. Number 5, indie darling, Hades. You know, roguelites have gotten very popular over the years, and it's not my favorite games generally speaking. But there are a few titles that rise above the rest. Children of Morta, Dead Cells, Into the Breach, Slay the Spire, and now Hades. I'm a huge fan of Supergiant games. Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre, played them all. But Hades may be their best work yet. Each run is action-packed with a plethora of upgrades bestowed by Greek mythological figures. The variety in gameplay is awesome, and unlike most in the genre, Hades provides a ridiculous amount of story content. Dozens of hours in, and I've not heard one repeated line yet. And in typical Supergiant Games fashion, the sound design is absolutely top-notch. It's not perfect though. To see the real story and roll credits in Hades, you must play a lot, and it does get repetitious. Enemy variety isn't where I'd like, and environments are extremely limited. But the core gameplay loop is extremely taut and enjoyable, and this is a no-brainer recommendation for all types of gamers. Number 4, The Last of Us Part 2. I love games more than any other art or entertainment, but evocative, emotional storytelling has always been lagging behind greatly. I rarely engage with scenes like I am with TV or movies. But The Last of Us Part 2 is a big exception, delivering top-tier performances, writing, and storytelling to create a compelling and emotionally draining experience. I don't agree with every story decision, but it truly does challenge the player by making them do things they are disgusted by. The Last of Us Part 2 forces you to empathize with those you hate. With this budget, games often soften the edges and play it safe, but not here. Naughty Dog has taken bold chances with the story. Art rarely elicits strong emotional reactions from me. I'm dead inside. But there were moments I felt a surging bloodlust rage that actually scared me. It wasn't a typical gaming rage, it was real, it was emotional, it was frightening. Critiques? Well, I felt the ending played it safe. The game also went on too long. It could have been cut in half, especially considering all the awesome post-game modifiers. I struggled where to rank this game, but looking back, The Last of Us Part 2 was a polished, powerfully emotional experience that I will never forget. It should also be mentioned the accessibility options are more diverse than any game I've ever played. Oh, and it also has the best use of the PS4 touchpad ever. So you can just mess around here. It's wild. You could change keys. The fact that, yeah, it does represent. So you touch the note. And you kind of like pluck the string. It is amazing. All right, we're in the top 3. Number 3, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. The Ori titles are among the most beautiful games ever made. The art and animation create a striking blend that leaves me in awe. More importantly, the gameplay is smooth as butter. An action platformer, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a Metroidvania with terrifyingly grandiose boss battles and cutscenes that will tug at your heartstrings. As the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, both of which are free on Game Pass, it easily sticks to landing at number 3 on my best of 2020 list, and I cannot wait to jump back in. Woo! Oh, I'm flying! Or not. My number 2 game of the year 2020, Final Fantasy VII Remake. From the classics like Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana to more obscure titles such as Seventh Saga and Robotrek, 90s JRPGs were by far my favorite games. But I slowly fell off after the 3D era firmly planted its flag in gaming ground. I was blown away by Final Fantasy VII's tech, but it never ranked high on my best in the series list, so I went in skeptical, especially seeing the more action-orientated combat. Man, was I wrong. Final Fantasy VII Remake is an incredible experience that recaptures my love of the IP. The combat is an excellent compromise between conflicting ideologies, and the tone is silly and irreverent, over the top in all the right ways. And the eclectic soundtrack is seriously among the best ever in gaming. Graphics are mostly highly detailed, but there are notable exceptions like NPC character models, which constantly repeat. I saw the same clones all over the slums, and that's a bit of a bummer. Also, many of the side quests feel antiquated, especially compared to all the forward-looking ideas in this remake. Ultimately, Final Fantasy VII Remake is an incredible game, and I hope it sets a new standard for not just the next chapter of this game, but future Final Fantasies in general.
You may find it extremely pleasurable and rewarding, or the opposite.
Wait.
Absolutely not. You asked for this. Now take it like a man!
And my number 1 game of the year 2020 is the highly underrated Nioh 2. So those of you familiar with my channel know that Dark Souls is probably my favorite franchise right now. You know, many have tried unsuccessfully to emulate the singular experience. Team Ninja, however, is the one developer who, in my opinion, can stand toe-to-toe with From Software. Nioh 2 is a masterful, unique take on the Souls formula. There are nigh unending systems in place regarding progression and combat. After deep preparations, choose an area to explore and battle your way through. Colored loot spews from dismembered demons as you tear through feudal Japan using myriad weapons and items. Ranged options, magical abilities, stance changes. Nioh 2 has a variety of systems to ensure a highly customized experience. I had no bugs, it's super polished, it runs buttery smooth. The sound design is great. Hundreds of hours of content here if you want it, and I kept coming back for more. The Nioh games, in my opinion, have never gotten the respect deserved. While I do still slightly prefer Souls and Bloodborne games, These titles provide an incredible and engaging gameplay experience. Nioh 2 is very unique. The main issue I have is Team Ninja reuses assets far too much. The first game is more understandable, but the sequel needed more variety with enemies and environments, even if that means less content overall, which I would have been fine with. Nioh 2 still remains an epic game that even after 100 hours I'm still pumped to jump into the DLC and more New Game Plus. Despite tough competition, it is without a doubt my Game of the Year for 2020. Alright, thank you guys again so much for watching. Make sure to sub, check us out on Twitch, CaptainSpanX with 2 X's. Let me know in the comments what you think of this perfect list, objectively. I think there's no contention there. Yeah, and again, I didn't get to play everything. Demon's Souls is a big one. That could possibly make my number 1, considering it is my favorite franchise right now. Microsoft Flight Simulator, I really want to play that. I have to wait till it comes out on console. So that's another one that could potentially be up there. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of the list and any suggestions on videos. And I will catch you next one. Bye!